This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Bad news coming out of the Supreme Court in South Carolina, an all-male Supreme Court. You know where this is going. The only all-male Supreme Court in the United States has taken another look at the South Carolina MAGA right-wing Republicans' attempts to take away a woman's bodily autonomy and right to choose and to have an abortion beyond 6 weeks, following the Dobbs U.S. Supreme Court decision. And they, even though in January, when they had a female justice on the bench with them, they couldn't do it while she was there. So they found that in January, a version of the 6-week ban in South Carolina somehow violated the South Carolina right to privacy of a woman. But now, 8 months later, it doesn't. I don't even want to graft onto that anything other than what's obvious. Now that justice retired, and she was Justice Kittredge, and she and her opinion that she wrote no longer holds sway because they've got the numbers in a 4-1 decision, with the only dissenting holdout another man, but the Chief Justice for the South Carolina Supreme Court, Don Beatty. They ruled that the new version of the fetal heartbeat and pregnancy protection law, I'm going to unpack the wording on that in a minute, somehow passes muster. What they're really finding is that a 6-week-old embryo that has or doesn't have some cardiac activity with some of its cells has more rights than a full adult woman in the state of South Carolina. Because they have found now, because they have the numbers, because they lost the only woman on the court, the South Carolina Supreme Court, revisiting an issue they just decided 8 months ago, has decided, no, they're okay with it now. 6-week ban, because as written by the justice for the majority opinion, the winning opinion 4-1, while recognized that a woman has a right to privacy under the South Carolina Constitution, that the legislature of South Carolina has properly balanced in a reasonable way the rights of the unborn child. Listen to those words: 6-week-old embryo, unborn child, against the rights of a woman to self-autonomy, bodily autonomy, and the right to choose, and her right to privacy. Even the Chief Justice of that court, Don Beatty, said, I'm confused about cardiac activity. And the two bills, the one that we rejected back in January and the one that we are affirming now, and saying it's okay, have the same name and use the same timeline for taking away a woman's right to choose. How is she possibly going to be able to make a informed decision about her right to privacy in such a short amount of time? And why are we calling it heartbeat when it can't be a heartbeat? And why are we calling it an unborn child when it's an embryo at best? This is the problem in all of the states. There's now 24 of them that have banned abortions since the Dobbs decision last summer at the U.S. Supreme Court level ripped away a woman's right to choose and bodily autonomy after 50 years of having that constitutional right under Roe versus Wade. This is what happens when you get all men, and I'm speaking to you as a man and a practicing attorney, when you get all men and the one woman that was there, who was the conscience, obviously, of that court, retired. And then the MAGA legislature, in their infinite wisdom, rather than filling the spot with another woman, how about 2? How about 3? How about majority women in South Carolina? How about that? They decided, let's make it all men. And then the men will rule the world. And now this is the next episode in Handmaid's Tale, obviously, being played out in South Carolina. So the news right now is that Planned Parenthood, who was the plaintiff there, has decided to continue to provide as best they can abortion services in a state that now, by their Supreme Court, reversing course and changing precedent after just 8 months, only because they got the numbers. So there's no jurisprudential honesty here. This is jurisprudential hijacking in plain sight for all of us to see, led entirely by the only all-male Supreme Court, state Supreme Court in our union. You see what happens when you get all men on a Supreme Court? Bad things happen. I mean, it's not great things either, with a couple of the right-wing extremists on our U.S. Supreme Court that happen to be female as well. I'm looking at you, Amy Coney Barrett. But, this is what happens. And now we've got the battle lines drawn as if we're in the Civil War between the haves and the have-nots. States where women have bodily autonomy, the right to choose and control what happens to their body, including reproductive rights and health. And those states where they don't. Even though everybody is supposed to be a member of these United States and protected by one federal constitution. When you rip away a right that's embedded in the Constitution and you leave it state by state to handle it, this is exactly how you're going to draw the line, right? South of the Mason-Dixon line, women have now been sent back to the 1940s and 1950s, or certainly before 1973 with the passage of Roe versus Wade. Above the Mason-Dixon line and in all the other enlightened states, women have, under their state constitutions, the right to choose, right? We're almost split right down the middle. Right now, 27 states allow some version of abortion, but with limitations in many of them, and 24 do not allow abortion at all. South Carolina now leading the charge in that area. How do you fight back on this? What's the takeaway from this hot take? Voting. You don't like the results? Progressive thinking people, women, and others, independents, make them pay at the ballot box. Make these people pay in South Carolina at the next election. Vote the scoundrels out. That's the only way. Change your state house from red to blue, right? That's what you have to do. And then you see the Supreme Court doesn't care at the state level, especially about precedent and how long it's been on the books. They can change it like they're changing their underwear, right? So throw the scoundrels out, vote. That's why voting is so important. Register now so that you're in a position to vote, and make sure that you send the message the only way that you really can, besides, civil rights protests and other things. Protests are great. Getting together in Washington and other states and protesting results is great. Peaceful protests out in front of state houses to let your voice be known is great. Voting is better. To paraphrase the great Barack Obama, don't boo, vote. Vote. Hold your nose even if you think you're a Republican, but you think women are being penalized and being reduced to second-class citizens, third-class citizens, beneath even a 6-week or younger embryo. If that bothers you, if that troubles you, but you don't like the Democrats and anything else, hold your nose and vote. Vote blue, because you see what happens when the right-wing MAGA get the numbers and you see the rights that are being taken away from people. And not just people, women in this society who have fought hard since the 1800s and 1900s to be equal and treated equally. And by the way, pass the Equal Rights Amendment while you're at it, because that would help in this area. I'm going to continue to follow how abortion is being played out in the state houses under the state constitutions by, in this case, all male Supreme Courts and other places, and bringing it to you here on the MeidasTouch Network, the only place where we don't blow smoke or sunshine. We bring you the facts based on our experience as practicing trial lawyers in courtrooms and courthouses just like this one. I'm Michael Popok. I co-anchor Legal AF on Wednesdays and Saturdays on the MeidasTouch Network on YouTube. It's all free to subscribe and pick up our podcasts on all regular podcast platforms. If you like what I'm doing here, give me a thumbs up. And until the next hot take, this is Michael Popok, Legal AF.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.